Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. This is my favourite time of the month again, where I talk about every book I read in May and what I rated them, and then we get to pick my June TBR, so that should be fun. I love to see what books I am meant to read, expected to read, and I love to talk about books I did read, and yeah, I just can't wait to give you all my thoughts. So this month I read 6 books, and I would say it was a very good reading month. It was probably one of the better reading months I've had this year so far, which I was very thankful for. And of the 6 books, technically 7, that I had on my TBR for May, I actually read 5 of them, and I'm going to be reading the tandem read of Tower and Dawn and Empire Storm tomorrow, which will be the 31st. So I'll start this tomorrow, but I haven't started it yet. But technically that will mean I've read every single book on my TBR, which I'm very proud of myself. Let's talk about all the 6 books I read in May and what I rated each of them and my thoughts. So the first book I read in May was The Survivors by Jane Harper. Now I went into this book with extremely high expectations because I loved her previous work as an author. I love The Dry, Force of Nature was quite good. Multiple of her other books, I've read all of them now I believe, and I had pretty high ratings for the majority of them. I think between a 3.5 to 5-star rating for each of them. So I had extremely high hopes. I hadn't read one of her books in years, so I wasn't sure I'd still be really into her writing, because I did read her books when I just started reading, so I didn't know if I'd still be interested in her style of writing and things. I've rated The Survivors a 3-star, which I don't think is awful. It's obviously not the best. It's kind of in between, like, it wasn't like gripping my attention, but also I wasn't like completely let down. So basically what happens is a man called Kieran comes back to his hometown where he left years and years ago, and while he's there, a young woman actually drowns, or she's found dead on the waterfront at the beach, and she's found there, she's dead. They're trying to figure out what's happened to this girl. No one knows, and it's just bringing up a lot of his past trauma from when he was a child. And when he was a child, there was a big storm and he almost drowned, and instead of him drowning in this storm, his oldest brother actually died in this storm. So he has a lot of trauma from storms and those kind of things. And it's just him like trying to help these people figure out what happened to this young woman. And I never knew who the actual person that killed her was going to be. I didn't have any clue. When Kieran was a child, other than his brother drowning in this storm, on the same night of that storm when he was younger, a young girl went missing. And she's never been found. No body's ever been found. No one knows what's happened to her. And Kieran's friends with the older sister of this girl, and yeah, this book is also trying to figure out where this young girl is gone, and you do find out what happened to her. It's kind of it's not really closed like investigation, really. It's not even really an investigation to that girl. It's mainly just the investigation of this woman that's died, and then them learning more about Kieran's childhood, about these people that died and were missing. So yeah, that's what happened in this book, and I wasn't not interested, but I also it didn't have my attention fully. Like, I just kind of wanted to end the book. I wanted to know what happened to this girl and who killed her and all the things from his childhood. Like, I was interested, but equally I didn't really like any of the characters that much. I didn't really feel a connection to any of them, and yeah, I just didn't really have that many thoughts, especially not compared to her previous books. So that's why I rated a 3-star. Out of all of them, I definitely would not recommend this one out of the others. 100% I would recommend The Dry and Force of Nature, not so much this one though. But I'm glad I read it now, and yeah, if she releases another book, I'll definitely read it, but a 3-star for The Survivors. The next book I read was What We Saw by Aaron Hartzler, and this is one of the books that's been on my TBR card the longest, and I went into it with absolutely the lowest hopes possible. I was like, I'm not going to enjoy it. It's clearly been on my card a long time for a reason. I'm clearly not that interested in the storyline, or I would have read it earlier. But This surprised me so much, and this was the beginning of my really good reading month. I rated this a 5-star, easiest 5-star I've probably given it a very long time. It's basically about this girl called Kate. Now, she goes to a party and she leaves this party early because she's super drunk. She gets driven home by her childhood best friend Ben, who they're not really friends at this point in time. He drives her home, and there's always been like an underlying kind of crush. And he drives her home, nothing, she doesn't think anything of it. The next day she like thanks him, everything, like, and then from then on they're forming a friendship again, and they're like childhood besties again. And they're in, I think they're like 17. Now, from this party, a young girl also that went, Stacey, she presses charges against 4 of the school's basketball players. And Ben is friends with these individuals, and so is Kate in the end, because Kate and Ben end up in a relationship. Now, the whole time Kate isn't like, she's 100% believing Stacey, like, I believe her. If she says she was assaulted, she was, but she's kind of like keeping those thoughts to herself because her friends don't completely agree. She's in a friendship group, and when I tell you, I've never been so infuriated with one of the girls in this book in my life. She was just the worst kind of female to be told information about another female, if you know what I mean. Like, she was immediately like, what was she wearing? She asked for it. She got drunk. Who wouldn't want to hook up with these people? They're the most popular people ever. Like, things like that. And I was just getting so infuriated because I 100%, I've been in situations where I've been around girls and I've been around boys where they've said the exact same thing, and it was just so infuriating because it was so accurate to the real world, I feel like. So that's what was really just grinding my gears. So I hated her, but there was a friend of Kate's that definitely believed Stacey as well, but she just wasn't, they weren't openly admitting they believed her. They just were kind of like standing back, which is obviously not good either, but they were standing back and not saying anything. This information comes out about these basketball players. It gets like proven that it was true, I guess, and a video ends up circling of the sexual assault. And it's, when I was reading it, I was like, I feel physically sick, because if I was to watch a video of someone getting, like someone I knew especially, getting assaulted, I would pass out and vomit probably. Like, I was just imagining it, and it was just so awful. So in the end, Kate ends up reporting it, and actually in the end she finds out a lot more about Ben that probably, Kate ends up coming forward and doing the right thing and saying, like, she's found this video, like, she knows every single person that's in this video, she knows all the men, all the women watching, she knows these people, and yeah, she names names, and it ends, the book ends with her and her brother moving schools. She's got no friends from her original friend group, nothing like that. So yeah, I feel like it was a very good representation of the real world and actually what can really happen if you come forward and if you don't, really. And just how common these situations are. And it was a very good telling of like the real world, and I really liked it, and it was like, I was hooked the entire time. Really enjoyed all the character dynamics. So that is why I rated What We Saw a 5-star. And if this teaches me anything, it teaches me I need to start reading older books off my TBR, because clearly I've got some hidden gems there and I'm just not paying attention to them. The next book I read was The Moonlight Dreamers by Siobhan Kerham. Now, this was also has been also on my TBR card probably as long as What We Saw. So probably like coming on like 5 years, honestly. And because I read What We Saw and I was like, wow, this book is actually insane, like, it's so good, it definitely raised my hopes for this book. But I was very, very disappointed. I ended up rating this book a shocking 1.5 stars. So do with that what you will. Clearly states how I felt about this book, unfortunately. It's centered around 4 young teenage girls, Amber, Marley, Sky, and Rose. And they're kind of sick of being left out, they're sick of being bullied, they're sick of being weird, they're sick of doing what their parents have said when they clearly don't want to. they're just sick of kind of going with the grain and being seen as weird just for having the dreams that they like. Now, they don't know each other, they end up forming this group called the Moonlight Dreamers, and basically, it was not cringy, but I was just like, it's just so like, oh, I don't even know. They end up coming together and forming this group, and basically at the beginning, when they first form this group, they all say like what they want to become. Like, one wants to be a pastry chef, one like wants to be in do slam poetry, like be confident enough to, I don't know, I don't really know. They just all have different dreams, and by the end of the book, all their dreams come true. But there wasn't really much to it. I didn't really enjoy any of the characters. Didn't really have any interest in learning about them at all. And yeah, I feel like it's a very, like, I'd give this to my 15-year-old sister. It wasn't really my kind of book. She'd probably hate it too because she doesn't really read. Like, I'd give it to a younger, I'd probably give it to an early teenager, like a 13-year-old, 13 to like 16, 17. Like when you're in high school and you're figuring out friendships and you feel different but you don't know why, kind of thing. It's not really for my age range, I wouldn't say. The next book I read was definitely an anticipated read for me for this year, and that was The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. Now, if you don't know who Jessa Hastings is, she writes the Magnolia Parks books, so she's author of them, and she's Australian, I believe, which I always find shocking to like think about. I don't know why. This was actually the first book I've rated 6 stars since 2023, so I didn't have any 6 stars last year, none that I was like non-stop thinking about. I'll only rate a book a 6 star if I'm like completely connecting with it. I highlight so much. I love the character. Like, I don't even need to love the characters, but I feel like a connection to certain characters, or even if I just cannot stop thinking about it. And this was the easiest 6 star I've given in in like 2 years. Like, I highlighted so much. I loved this book. And I really do enjoy Jessa Hastings' writing, but I didn't rate any of her Magnolia Parks universe books. I didn't rate any of them a 5 star. I rated them very highly, between like a 4 and a 4.5, but I didn't get to the 5 star. Lacey, my sister, rated majority of them, I believe, a 5 star, and she loves that world, everything. She rated this also a 5 star, but I feel like, I don't know, I felt like I really connected to a lot of the things Georgia in this book was saying. So I'll give you a backstory. Georgia is actually, she's gone back to her hometown because her father's passed away, and she hasn't been there for like 10 years, I swear it was, because when she was younger, like 15, she got kicked out for something that happened that was definitely not her fault. And I'm gonna give spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, don't watch, but I love a spoiler, so this is for my people that love a spoiler. She gets kicked out for a certain reason I'll go into, and so does her brother Oliver, and her brother Oliver's gay, so they're both outcasts for different reasons. His is obviously because they're a conservative family and he's gay, and obviously they don't want that. And then she got kicked out for something that happened that wasn't her fault when she was 15. So come back to this childhood home for a funeral for the father. Now, neither of them have a relationship with the dad, really. Obviously, because they were like kicked out of the home, like they were shunned. So they don't have a relationship with him, but they also have the mother, no relationship with her, especially Georgia. And then they have a sister, Marianne, and a brother, Tennyson. So there's the 4 of them. There's Georgia and Oliver, best friends, and they're the shunned ones. And then there's Tennyson and Marianne, who are the angel children, could never do any wrong, specifically Marianne. Marianne is literally the definition of a devil. I've never hated a character more in my life. I know I said that in the book, What We Saw, but this character was infuriating. She had such a victim complex, and I know too many people like that, so I was just like, I can't do that. Like, when you know so clearly that you're in the wrong, you're just going down and down and down. You're like, no, I'm right. I'm standing on this business. I know I'm right. I hate people like that. That's how she was. So back for this funeral. Oliver is an alcoholic, so he has an AA sponsor with him, Sam. And Sam and Georgia throughout the whole book are forming this relationship. They fall in love. And yeah, they end up together by the end of the book. He's definitely one of my favourite book boyfriends. Love Sam, and I know Lacey would agree with me. Loved him. Oliver, actually, the whole book, you can tell, like, he's not approving of Georgia and Sam hanging out so much, and it's because Oliver's got this infatuation with Sam, and you know it's never gonna happen. So there's that. And then Marianne is very toxic. She is awful to Georgia. She's constantly being like, everything's her fault, nothing could ever be Marianne's fault. And this is when I started to hate Marianne, because I was like, you're already so infuriating, but I want to know what you did to make Georgia hate you this much. And this leads me to the biggest spoiler of the book of why Georgia was sent away. You find out that when Georgia was like 15, for an entire year, she was having non-consensual sex with Marianne's boyfriend. Now, before it was Marianne's boyfriend, it was this older guy who found Georgia very fascinating, really just liked her for some odd reason, because she's a few years younger, like definitely not wanting to be with this guy. And one night he ends up sexually assaulting her, and Marianne actually walks in on it happening and sees it happening and never says anything to anyone. The next day, Marianne ends up dating this guy. And then Georgia proceeds to be assaulted by him for an entire year. And it was just very confronting, because even she said, she's like, but was it sexual assault because it was happening for an entire year and I never actually said no? Like, she was just saying, like, it probably seemed to him like she enjoyed it, which was quite sad to actually read, because I'm assuming like a lot of people feel like that. So that was very confronting to read, and as soon as I read it, I was like, I knew this was coming, and I was really praying it wouldn't. But unfortunately, that is why she was sent away, because one day when she was 15, her father walked in on her having sex with this man and with this boy, and yeah, the dad immediately was like, you're sleeping with your sister's boyfriend. Like, you're 15, for starters, that shouldn't be happening, and secondly, it's your sister's boyfriend. So she was sent away for that, and Marianne never told anyone what happened, which was the most infuriating thing, because, oh, just no. So they're obviously at this funeral. They haven't seen each other for years. She hates Marianne. She doesn't really have a relationship with her older brother, Tennyson, but she doesn't really have a problem with him either. And the whole book, it's Georgia and Tennyson. You can tell he's really supporting her more, because she actually does end up coming out and telling her whole family that she was being sexually assaulted by this guy. And Tennyson's very supportive. Oliver actually isn't very supportive. He's like, why didn't you tell me? You should have told me, which I did not enjoy. He had a very much victim complex as well, where he's like, I have more problems than you, so you can't really have any problems, like kind of thing like that. And Georgia was very understanding and constantly trying to validate him and say, no, you are right, I should have told you and stuff. And I'm like, no, you didn't need to. Like, if you really wanted to, you would have told him. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just can't tell people those things. And yeah, he was just sometimes quite brutal and just not very nice. And it ends up with Oliver finding out that Sam and Georgia are sleeping together and have feelings for one another. So he completely switches up and sides with Marianne on everything. They kind of, like, specifically Marianne, they kind of bully Georgia. And I just love Georgia, because she was taking no shit. Like, she was like, no, you are actually a C word. Like, I just, like, what she was saying sometimes, I'm like, I wish I could just tell people that, you know what I mean? It ends with you them finding out a lot about their father, who has passed away. They end up finding out that he's left money to this Alexis person. They're like, who's this Alexis person? We don't know them. The mum doesn't know them. No one knows them. And it turns out it's actually the dad's partner, who is a male, So you find out the father is also gay. So it's kind of like, okay, was he really not that supportive of his son Oliver for being gay because he was gay and he couldn't be who he really wanted to be? It was kind of like insinuating that. But I didn't really ever have a problem with the dad. Obviously, I did have slight problems, but you could definitely tell by the end of the book he was trying to be good, because even his partner ends up forming a relationship with Georgia specifically, and he's constantly saying how proud the dad was of Georgia and how he just never got to say it, stuff like that. And it's quite nice how the book ends, because Georgia actually ends up having a relationship with Alexis, so she's kind of got like a new father figure. And then yeah, it ended up with Georgia and Tennyson having a very good relationship, best friends, and then Oliver eventually comes back around and isn't so much of an asshole. Still didn't really like him by the end, but whatever. And then her and Sam are living together in London, and yeah, Marianne and the mother aren't really in the picture. The mum's kind of like the more I know, the less I care. Like, she doesn't really care that much, which is quite disappointing. I thought she might have a bit of a redemption, but yeah, I had no negatives about this book. I absolutely adored it, and yeah, 6-star for me. But I thought I'd read you some of my quotes, because like I said, I didn't obviously relate to the sad things that happened to Georgia, but a lot of the things that she was saying, I was like, wow, okay, you just have written down exactly what I've been thinking, and I've just never been able to put it into words. So I'll read you some of them. Let's see, without getting too personal. And by wrong, I mean wrong according to them. I never side with anyone in my family. I only question things, and I don't think any of the above makes me inherently good or inherently bad either. Some of these are personal, so I probably won't read those ones. You can be resentful of something, hateful even, and still be jealous of it. The nicest thing you can ever do for another human being is see them, and really see them at that. To be understood is one of the most base desires we as people have. That's definitely my favourite quote. And this book was amazing. And I heard she's releasing another book soon, so can't wait to read that one too, because I heard great things about this book and it did not disappoint. 6-star. The good books don't end there. The next book I read was The Courting of Bristol Keats, which I got given by my mum one day, and I believe she only picked it because the cover looked nice and the blurb sounded like good, I guess. I don't know. I read the blurb, sounds literally incredible. I loved how it sounded. So I was like, oh, I'll do some research, because I haven't read a book in a while where I just didn't know anything about it. So I was like, I'll do some research just to see the base synopsis of what this book is. And it had quite, I wouldn't even say mixed reviews. The majority of the videos I saw, like, pretty much everyone was kind of like let down by it, like didn't really like it that much. So obviously I went into it not like changing my opinion of what I thought the back sounded like. I thought the back sounded good, so I didn't change my opinion, but I definitely was a bit more wary, like, is this actually going to be a good book? And I absolutely loved this book. I rated it a 5-star, and as soon as I started reading, I'm like, this is going to be a 5-star. Like, it was just, it is the very basic fantasy kind of world book, which I loved. It kind of was giving me the same energy of Fourth Wing, as in the way it's just a very easy storyline to follow and very easy to understand the characters, envision the world, like things like that. Will I give you spoilers? I'll give you spoilers. Who doesn't love a spoiler? If you don't like a spoiler, this channel's not for you, because I love a spoiler and I'm going to give you them, okay? The Courting of Bristol Keats. So it's centered around Bristol Keats, which I found interesting about this book, because it had a very good mesh between the mortal world and the Fae world. But I don't mean in like, sometimes in books the mortal world still isn't like our mortal world. But in this one it's like talking about Paris and like things like that, like actually places. And I was like, kind of like, wow, I don't think I've really read many fantasy books where they've actually talked about actual places, which I actually quite enjoyed, to be honest. At Bristol Keats, she lives with her 2 sisters in Bowes Keep. Her mother went missing or died. She didn't really die. She's gone missing. And the dad has died. She gets like her and her sisters are struggling because they are the ones having to. I'm gonna kill this stupid fucking fly. They have to keep themselves afloat because they don't have parents, and they want to stay in Bo's Keep because they have moved their entire childhood with their parents, constantly moving to different places, and it was not their choice, it was their parents. So they want to stay in Bo's Keep, they enjoy it, everything like that. They all have jobs, they love it. Bristol Keats ends up meeting with this person to buy a painting, I believe, a real life, I think it was Van Gogh, which is where the mortal world came into a lot more. I was like, so interesting. But they're buying like a Van Gogh painting or like a big artist like that. I can't remember if it was exactly Van Gogh or someone like that. And it turns out this painting was actually real and it saves her sisters. Like, it gives them thousands and thousands of dollars. But before it gives them the money, she finds out that her dad might not actually be dead. He's been taken by these creatures into this place where he's alive and living. So she meets up with this man called Targan, and Targan tells her, like, we want you to come into the fairyland to find this hidden door. And this hidden door will basically protect all the land, and they want her to find it because you later find out that she's meant to have these powers because her parents are very powerful fae. Fae, like mortal fae, like kind of mixed. You know what I mean? So this is where it kind of reminded me a lot of Fairy Tale by Stephen King, because she got sent through this portal with Targan, who is the king of this land, and she got sent through this portal, which, like in Fairy Tale, he gets sent through a portal, and when she enters, all around it's fae, it's goblins, it's monsters, it's everything magical, which is also like in Fairy Tale. So it's giving me the same energy as Fourth Wing and Fairy Tale at this point, which I was like, love those books. I'm gonna love this book. I did. The whole time she's like, I'll look for this door for you if you help me find my dad. And the problem here is that her dad is actually not a good person. He is known as like the butcher or something killing wise, and Targan hates him because they used to be friends. Now Targan and Bristol actually end up falling in love with each other, and in that regard it reminds me a lot of Akatar with Feyre and Rhysand, whatever. So it reminds me a lot of that, where they shouldn't really be together, but they want to be together, like they're drawn to each other. Now, Targan's only the king because his brother's been taken by this evil creature and they're trying to get him back. And I believe if you find this door, it will kind of like help find him. Stupid fucking fly. Targan is trying to help Bristol draw out her powers, and she ends up being able to draw out fire. Bristol and Targan form this relationship, and it's just about her journey trying to discover what's happened to her dad. She finds out a lot about her dad, and she really just doesn't know who to believe because she's formed this relationship with Targan where she trusts him, but then her dad is telling her the opposite of what Targan's told her because they're enemies. And to be completely honest, I still don't know who's telling the truth. I think it's Targan, but I don't really know. And she finds out her mother's still alive and she's in this land. And yeah, the book ends with Targan and Bristol not really getting along. He ends up almost dying. So then she's like, no, I do love him. I want to be with him. And yeah, it ends on a pretty big, I would say it's not a big cliffhanger. It ends on like, it's not a closed book, which I later found out that it's getting released in November, the next one. So I'm excited for that. The basic, very, very basic parts of this book is she's just trying to find her dad in this Fae land. She's not Fae, but she later finds out that she's part Fae, part mortal. I believe from my mother, who's Fae as well. She has powers. She is good at closing these magical doors, which is what they want. And then she forms a relationship with Targan the king, and he's obviously magical. And yeah, she's just in this new land. And I believe in the next book, she'll probably have to decide if she wants to stay in this land or go back to the mortal world, basically. It's actually now I'm thinking about it, it's quite similar to Akatar with the whole sister aspect as well, because the sisters aren't Fae in this book, and in Akatar they're not Fae. but they have to be brought into the world. So yeah, it's quite like that actually now that I think about it. So it's like fourth between Fairy Tale and ACOTAR. It's just a very good basic fantasy book. And I would recommend this to a lot. And if you've heard negative reviews of this book, don't listen to them, because I thoroughly enjoyed this book. And I haven't had a fantasy book that's hit me this hard in a long time. And I loved it. So this was a 5-star. Then the final book I read for May was The Hunger Games Catching Fire, which is the second book, well, in the trilogy. Now it's obviously 5 books, but initial trilogy. I rated this a 5-star. I loved the first book. It's so good. Definitely better than the movie. And I would say this is better than the movie, only because I don't remember this movie specifically or the other two. I only really remember properly the first movie. Like, I never feel like I paid attention fully to the movies. So yes, I rated this a 5 stars. So good. This whole series, I feel like this is going to be a 5-star for me. It just holds so much like serotonin, I feel like, in these books, which sounds so stupid because they're quite depressing books, but like it just brings out the inner child in me, which is obviously increasing my serotonin. So in the previous book, Katniss and Peeta are put into the Hunger Games to fight to the death. There's only meant to be one winner. It ends up being both of them winning, which in return leaves Professor, what's his name? Mr. Snow. What's his name? It's not Professor. It leaves him very angry, and now the Capitol wants revenge against Katniss because she's changed the games. Like, now every time someone goes into the games, they're going to immediately think, yep, we can have 2 winners because she had 2 winners. Like a rebellion forming because of Katniss, and it's like the Mockingjay rebellion because she had the pin. Now they want her as the leader because they believe that she's the only person that could truly challenge the Capitol and maybe change the games so they don't exist, or if they do exist, it exists in a different way, basically. So the Quarter Quell happens every 25 years or something like that, and this year's Quarter Quell, Snow picks it out supposedly randomly. Let's be honest, it's probably not. He's evil. And it says that 2 victors from every district have to go back into the games and battle to the death again. And it has to be 1 female and 1 male. And because from District 12, the only female that's ever won was Katniss, and there's only ever been 2 male victors from that district, and that was Haymitch and Peeta. Now, Katniss obviously doesn't want Peeta to go back in because she loves him and she wants to protect him again. But Peeta doesn't want to send Haymitch in because Peeta actually wants to protect Katniss. So basically, Katniss's name obviously gets picked out of the reaping because she's the only female. But Haymitch's gets picked, but Peeta volunteers for him. So in the end, Katniss and Peeta go in, and then 2 other people from every district. And you just form such love for each of the other contestants, especially in the movie. I remember really enjoying some of the other characters. And basically, the games don't go as it's meant to. Plutarch, the game maker, actually ends up helping Katniss and helping the other contestants and like gets them out of the games so they live. But in the end, Peeta and one of the other people from the games ends up getting captured. So that's how it ends. But yeah, Katniss has just basically formed this rebellion, and yeah, just fighting against the Capitol because they don't believe the games is right and they don't want to continue doing it. Yeah, well, that's what this book was about, and she forms a deeper bond with Peeta. She's very confused about her feelings for Gale, which is her childhood best friend, but yeah, basically a Mockingjay rebellion is formed. That's pretty much the whole concept of this book, and then the next one obviously leads on to that. Yeah, I rated The Hunger Games a 5-star, and I love this book so much. And now it's the 30th today, so tomorrow I'll be starting Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storm, which is the tandem read, and I've done my research thanks to Lacey, and I believe I know how to read this, so look, I seem to have way too high hopes for myself sometimes, but I genuinely don't think I'm going to finish this next month, but I will give you updates, hopefully. So these are the 6 books I read in May. and I had an insane month. It's probably one of my better months I've had, especially in a very long time. An insane reading month, and I'm praying that the month of June will be at least relatively similar, and hopefully we'll have some new favourites in that month too. Now we're going to pick my June TBR and see what we get, I guess. Now I'm going to pick 6 books again, no surprises here, and I'm going to pick again 3 books from my random TBR prompts, and then 3 books that's just the picture. So let's see what we get this time, shall we? Let's go through some books I would love to get to this month. Love to get to Hunger Games Mockingjay, which is the final book in the trilogy. I would love to get to the final Harry Potter book. I think it's time. I've had enough time to stop reading them. I want to finish it now, so I would love to get to that. I wouldn't mind getting to The Way I Used to Be, but I know that will be quite confronting, but I would like to get to it. And probably Bad Blood, which is the final book in the Natural series. I would love to get to, and I know that'll be an easier read for me, so I think that'll be good to get to. But they're the main books I'd love to get to. I'm really not that fussed. I feel like I don't really have a lot of books on my TBR card that I'm like itching to read, so I'm excited to see what picks for me this time. Let's start with this one. So just gonna pick a random book, and if I read it, I'll just remove it, I guess. Hey Smosh. Okay, the first book on my June TBR. Interesting. David Attenborough, Adventures of a Young Naturalist. So that is this book. I started this book quite a long time ago. I think I got quite bored because I don't think it was what I expected. But I feel like this is also one of those books where you have to pick it up at the right time, otherwise you're just not going to be interested. So I'm intrigued to read it. I love David Attenborough. I'm intrigued. I wouldn't say I'm excited. Wouldn't say I'm not excited. I'm intrigued. We'll see how this one goes, but this is the first book on my TBR for June. I think I'm just going to do 3 and 3 because then that'll be easier, I think. The next book is Big Little Lies. Okay, so I guess we're just going to pick Big Little Lies. Now, I've watched the show. It's a very popular show. Really enjoyed it. See, I'm not excited to read this either, to be honest, because I already obviously know what happens. It's probably good, though, because I don't really fully remember it. So that's good, at least. And then maybe I can rewatch it and see what's different, similar. I just remember really enjoying it. So, once again, wouldn't say I'm excited to read it. Wouldn't say I'm not, though. I'm kind of just like, yeah, I'll read it if I do. If I don't, oh well. So this is the second book on my June TBR. Pick one more book like this. Third book on my June TBR is... Okay, I can get behind that. It is Things You Never Got Over by Lucy Score, which is this one, which I've had on my cart since Christmas, so obviously not the longest, but not it's probably too long to have a book on there, but some of them have been on there for years. So look, I know this is a very popular series. I heard this is one of the better ones out of the trilogy, but I don't actually really know what it's about. But yeah, I have no thoughts, opinions. I'm intrigued to read it. I'm not entirely sure if I like it as much about it as everyone else does, because I think it is romance heavy. I don't really know. I'm not going to say I'm going to enjoy it or not, because really I don't know. But this is the third book on my TBR for June. And out of the 3, I'm definitely most excited for this one. So that's good, isn't it? Now we're going to pick out of this 3 books out of this baddie. It says a book that is set in a well-known city. I hate prompts like this. I don't know why I wrote that. Okay, I'll come back to you. I'll do some research. Okay. So I did some research. I only looked at 2 books because I'm lazy. I looked up The Way I Used to Be, but that doesn't really have a city per se. It doesn't really talk about one. But then Bad Blood, which is the final book in the Naturals, is set in Quantico, Virginia. If you've watched Criminal Minds, pretty much any criminal show, you know what Quantico is. So I'm going to be picking Bad Blood for the prompt of a book that is set in a well-known city. Which is the final book. I'm so excited to get to it finally. I'm really hoping I enjoy it as much as the rest. I've heard this is a lot of people's favourites, so I'm excited to see what happens with Cassie and the rest of the team and just see how this whole series wraps up. So I'm very intrigued. So this is the 4th book on my TBR for June. Next prompt. A book with a crown on the cover. So obviously I'm thinking of fantasy. See, this is my thing again, because I clearly have a fucking idea for this and I've probably read it already. God damn it. Guys, this is going awfully. This is going so bad this month. Okay. Well, the only book I have a crown on the cover is Soul Catcher by Cassandra Clare, which actually that's quite funny that I got this, because I actually started this book last June. Yeah, I started this book last June when I was in Bali with Bodhi, and I could not get into it. I actually really was despising it at that point in time, which was disappointing because Cassandra Clare is obviously a very well-known and popular author, so I was bummed that I wasn't getting into it. And when I was reading the blurb originally, when I first got this book, I absolutely loved it. Like, it sounded so good. So I could have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time, because I was like on a holiday, like in a tropical place. So like that could have just hindered how I felt about this book. So I will give it another shot. I've never DNF'd a book, so I don't plan on starting now. But this is the only book I have for a crown on the cover. So for a book with a crown on the cover, I have chosen Sword Catcher by Cassandra Clare, which I really hope it's good. Now, the final book for my June TBR. Come on, we can save this. Hunger Games or Harry Potter. Probably pick them up anyway. A book that's set in summer. What is with me today? Let me do some more research. My research led me to discover that The Hunger Games Mockingjay is apparently set in summer, early fall, I believe, which is the final book in the trilogy. And once I read these, I'll obviously read the 2 newer books. But we gotta end on a high, because this is definitely not a good reading month personally for me, but I am really excited to read this. Super excited. I really wanted to get to either this or Harry Potter, so if I don't get to both, obviously I'm glad I'm getting to one at least. Once again, obviously there's 2 movies for this one, but obviously only 1 book. Don't remember it, so it'll be a surprise for me as much as for you when I talk about it. So, but this is the final book on my TBR for June, and that is a book that's set in summer, which I wouldn't have believed it either. If you don't trust me, look it up. It says it. It does. So, guys, we're here again. These are the 6 books I have chosen for the month of June, and if I had it my way, these are not the books I would have been choosing. But I got 2 books I really wanted to read, so that's a plus, I guess. I got Bad Blood and The Hunger Games, which I was desperate to read. I really wanted to get to them this coming month. But the rest, look, I'm not really excited about the David Attenborough one. I'm curious because I think I will find it quite interesting. But the David Attenborough one and Sword Catcher by Cassandra Clare, I have both previously started and put them down. So to me, that's not a very good start, but we'll see where things go, I guess. Obviously I'll be reading these alongside the tandem read. Probably tandem read isn't my main focus for next month. Got some romance, got some fantasy, got some I guess Hunger Games is like thriller. I don't really know. But some true stories. I'm really not that interested in Big Little Lies, only because I've obviously seen the show, so I kind of recall what happens. But yeah, these are the 6 books I will hopefully get to. I'm gonna be completely honest with you right now. I see myself only getting to like 3 or 4 of these. I highly doubt I'm going to get to all 6 of these. I will most definitely be picking up different books, I'm assuming. And I'm going to give all these books the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure I'll find some hidden gems in this. But these are the 6 books I shall be reading. Very intrigued, to say the least. That is the end of my May wrap up and my June TBR picking. Can't wait to tell you all my thoughts on the books and how much I enjoyed them, if I disliked them, liked them, loved them. I had a very good reading month this month, so I'm praying the next month is relatively similar, but we shall see. Once again, I'll tell you how it goes. But thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!